just a real slog over there. That
Um,
was what I played to review the last expansion here. I played as the Democratic Spanish just because it was very ahistorical and I wanted to see how that was modeled. That war gets very ugly, and there's a lot of attention brought to it by other states in Europe. Germany and the Soviet Union will frequently deploy troops. The Italians also will deploy troops to assist sides. If it goes on long enough, other people might also. The U.S. won't because they have decided to be neutral because, well, yeah, that's just what the U.S. likes to do in this game. So, interesting to see what happens over here with Spain. We won't be able to affect it at all, but it may end up having a domino effect onto something terrible happening over here.
do they model the volunteer forces?
It does, yes. So
Oh, cool.
certain states can send volunteer forces based on criteria. Uh, the communist and the fascist can send volunteer divisions faster. Places like the U.S. can't because of their quote unquote neutrality. But I think,
Mm,
if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I played Spain. If I remember correctly, there are a few governmental trees that they can do where they can try to petition governments for lend lease equipment or volunteers. So here, for example, they're going down the democratic side, it looks like, and they can petition for French aid. So good for them.
there's some interesting stories in there about people from around the world who went to go fight the nationalists, fight against the fascists and
Hmm.
Franco for the Republic, and what that did to their lives back home after the war finished. I know Canadians, because Canada didn't, but Canadians got together and formed a volunteer brigade and went to Spain to fight against the nationalists, and they fought, and some of them died. But because of the pretty anti-communist view of most of the Western world, when they went back home to Canada, they were all tracked and labeled as communist or communist sympathizers,
Hmm.
which affected their ability to get work and affected a lot of them trying to rejoin up with the military when World War II broke out. Like you have
Interesting.
people with combat experience who saying, "I want to go back and fight against fascists again," and they were being barred from certain positions because they had ties to communism because they fought for the Spanish Republic.
Yeah, and that's interesting because calling them communists is probably reductive in a lot. There's a lot happening right now. I'm going to pause the game here for a second. Calling them communists is pretty reductive just because of all of the. It was more of an anarchist community in a lot of respects, from what I understand. But at the end of the day, it was a very anti-fascist kind of system. So, oh, I don't have anyone to give guns to right now. That's why I'm not making many divisions because I don't have any guns.
Oh no.
So, so, so it is interesting, and it is kind of funny in a not very funny way that is just kind of reminiscent of the McCarthyist scares and kind of now too, where if you question a anything, it can label you as a pinko, I guess, for lack of a better term. So that's fun. History repeats itself. Hearts of Iron 4. Hearts of Iron 4, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, like there was communists in Spain, right? But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the hardcore communists, and especially the Soviet Union aligned and backed communists were a very small faction within the wider anti-fascist coalition, which included the anarchists, like you said, and all
Hmm.
the actual Republicans and the actual volunteers who were coming from other places because they saw the fascistic coup of Franco as a bad thing.
Yeah. Coups. Even saying anything about coups could be, like, controversial now. I don't even know if I would open my mouth. I have convoys. I have some convoys I'm not using for anything, but I don't have any materials to really trade for anything, though. This sucks. Manchukuo sucks.
The poor people of Manchuria. So this is the tragic part. But I mean, also, I'm a little bit surprised that the economic situation is that dire because Japan spent a lot of time and money pumping up Manchukuo as this economic center because one of the many reasons Japan is expanding in this time is because they feel the population issues in Japan and they feel the economic issues in Japan that we can't actually maintain the kind of empire that we need to be. So we need overseas territories like the European empires. And Manchukuo was
Mm.
supposed to be this place where you could um, dump, for lack of a better term, population and build up, uh, factories, infrastructure, farming. This was supposed to be what it was for, right? So you see in the 30s all these really fascinating campaigns of like go to the colonies, like the stuff that you would see in the 19th century in Europe, right? Like find your
Mm-hmm.
fortune in the Wild West. Only it was for Japanese people to go to Manchukuo to find their fortune and find their home.
Interesting.
And it's a really interesting part because a lot of people in Japan who are poor or struggling because remember what's happening globally now, right? You have the Great Depression, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people came here without like not as violent oppressors, but because they wanted to find a home for themselves, and this is what they had access to. Like my first Japanese language teacher, way back in undergrad, her mother was born in Manchukuo, so it was interesting talking to her about the struggles her mother had to face when they were emigrating to Canada in like the 60s or 70s because the country that she was born in no longer existed, and that was a real issue for the border.
Yeah, I could imagine that that would be an issue. Uh, I'm going to just not build any more divisions because I need a stockpile of guns, I guess, in order to stop the rebels.
Yeah, you got to work out because I mean, we talk about the Civil War, the Chinese Civil War later, right? And taking control of southern Manchuria was a major strategic goal because that was where a lot of the factories were, a lot of the production was, because Japan pumped a lot of money into it, right? So this was a place that both Chiang Kai-shek and Mao Zedong wanted to control, and Chiang Kai-shek ran himself into the ground trying to secure southern Manchukuo or Manchuria, right? Southern Manchuria from the communists. And I think that's one of his big follies in that war was sending so much supply and manpower to Manchukuo to try and secure this and losing.
Hmm.
But there's also another what the Soviet Union was doing, right? At the end of the war, they come rushing in there, and what are they doing? They're dismantling Manchukuo and infrastructure and factories and bringing them back to the Soviet Union. There's this great drain of resources in the final months of the war there when the Soviet Union sneaks in.
Way to go, everyone. You did it. You've ruined China again.
Yeah, and who's at the center of this, right? The poor people in Manchuria that have nothing to do with this and want nothing to do with this.
Yeah. It frequently seems that wars tend to happen around people who don't want them to happen.
Yeah, I suppose this is a good time as any to talk about briefly, like we mentioned in our podcast, the Hearts of Iron does absolutely nothing besides what that one percentage marker in the top corner there to represent what's happening to the civilian populations in these wars.
Yeah.
And that's just like that makes sense as a product. They're trying to sell a game, and people don't want to be reminded on the regular that the things they're doing are horrific. And we're playing as, you know, you're playing
Oh,
as an under
jeez.
disenfranchised person, right? You're playing as Manchukuo, the state trying to break free of his aggressor, but you are still going to be using the state structures that Japan put into place and trying to reconquer China. Like it's everything we're doing is not great because we're playing
Yeah, it's not great.
rough people in a rough time.
Interesting. So if I take out the bandits, actually, as you mentioned, if I take out the bandits, I can't invite the Japanese population to come settle, and I'll gain a lot of manpower and factories if I do that. So I'm going to try to stop. I'm going to try to not tick the Japanese off yet. And then I'm going to lure their people into my country, and then I'm going to say, haha, screw you, Japan, and I'm going to declare war on them. That's more or less what I'm going to end up doing.
I like that they actually have a focus for that. I mean, it has been happening since 31 when this started, but it's nice that they're actually like pointing out the settler colonial nature of Japanese Manchukuo.
Yeah, yeah. Let me take a look here. So I'm, I don't have tungsten. I can't even trade for tungsten. If I trade for it, I'm just going to have no factories.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of
This is
like
rough.
my military industrial complex is rifle factories and bullets and clothing, and I'm making sure my soldiers are also working in the factories and sewing and knitting because I don't have any labor.
Oh boy. This is interesting. Okay, so all I'm able to do right now, basically, for myself is try to stop the bandits from raiding, which works a little bit. But it's not working super well because their bandits are still raiding. That's not changing. I think it's just slowing them down.
All right, maybe you can help me with the game concept here. Then I just unlock the ability, I think, to I did anti-opposition campaigns. Oh, my general got sick. Unlocks decisions to start border conflicts with warlords who are not cooperating with the same side. Oh, no warlord has sided with the communists, so I can't try and initiate a border skirmish with Yana or Mazadong yet,
Yet.
because it's only the warlords who would side. So if who's on my border here? Who are you again?
The communists.
Shibe Sama. If they
Yeah.
side with the communists, then I could initiate a border conflict. So I can't expand. Ooh, this
So
is going to be ugly.
here's something interesting. I was just looking at your tree here, and when you get to the bottom of some of these areas, you'll change to the focus tree of either communist China or nationalist China.
Hmm.
So this focus tree that looks very small will end up not being not you don't have to worry about it so much because it's going to become a much more robust tree, and you'll get all of the fun invite people options that I have at the moment. So hopefully that will go well for you. Let's see how the war in Spain's going. The Republicans seem to be doing rather well, actually. That's surprising. Well, that's fun. Good for you guys.
More fun stuff. So I'm my family's Portuguese. If anyone could tell from the name Fonseca, but
Hmm.
I found interesting to look into the history of Portugal's involvement in the war, and interestingly, well, not really, because Salazar was very anti-communist. The Portuguese sent volunteers to help Franco uh, defeat the Republicans, and then later would send some volunteers to join Spain's maybe not famous, but the Blue Division that was organized by Franco to support Hitler fighting against the Soviet Union.
Ugh.
So they actually had a specific unit that was under strict orders that they could not engage the Western democracies. Were only allowed to fight against the communists, and fought in the Southern Theater. I'm trying to remember now. This is all from memory. The Spanish Division was fighting against the like in Operation Barbarossa and all that.
Yeah, I would assume it's probably on the more southern areas, along with, the Romanian divisions, the Bulgarian divisions along the south, when they were going into the Soviet Union. Oh, I can hunt down bandits. That's fun. Uh,
Poor guys. Vive la Free Korea.
uh, looks like I can't recruit them yet, which is unfortunate. It looks like I could recruit them. I'm gonna pause here for a second because I could recruit bandits. Apparently, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, that would be interesting because if you can start courting the Chinese warlord troops that are up there and the Koreans that are up there, you can
I
find Kim Il Sung and his ilk running around.
Yeah, I don't know how I get that though. Because it says I need, what is this? I need has completed focus bolster nationalism. Where is that? Oh wait, there's the new search feature. That's so good. Thank you, Hearts of Iron. Bolster national. That's a ways down there. Okay. I think I'm gonna keep going in that direction because I feel like in the long run, recruiting them would be more beneficial than uh, not recruiting them. So I'm going to, I guess, just suck it up and deal with the fact that they're going to be, you know, messing
So
with me for a while.
are you stuck between getting Japanese economic investment or recruiting the warlords or the warlord troops later on?
No, Well, it looks like more I have to decide what I want now. And I could either I have independent decisions that I could make with my political power or my troops that could hunt down the bandits and remove them entirely from the map. But if I hold on and wait, I get free units from them. So they'll just become free divisions for me, basically. And
Mm.
I will probably need free divisions, and so I want to hold on to that because right now all they're doing is messing with my infrastructure, and I think they can also damage my factories. I don't know exactly what they do to me. They do something. Here, let me see here. 25% chance arms factory damage, 25% civilian factory, 25% bridge blown, which is the infrastructure issue, and then 25%
Mm.
nothing happens. So they're not doing anything to my troops, and they're not really slowing me down too much. So I'm just gonna kind of let this happen for now. I think I'll do what I can to slow them down, but I'm not going to be I'm not in a rush to stop them.
Mm. Makes sense.
Oh,
All right.
hey, army modernization. That's fun. Polish-Romanian alliance. Yes, this is one I like very much because the Polish are going to be creating a faction, a Polish Baltic faction along the western side of the Soviet Union and the eastern side of Germany, and it can end up being this mega faction of just. It is very interesting to watch, and like it looks like Poland is going down that route
Yeah, that's
here.
interesting. Make France very happy, won't it?
Yeah, the French won't intervene, but the Poles can really hold their own in that case. I have seen the Poles survive the war without ever going under when they play as this faction. I'm going to go ahead and unpause now.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll. They haven't selected the faction yet, but that's the route it's going down. I'll switch to the faction view for just a moment. Right now, the factions are very small. It's just Comintern, which is the USSR, Tanutuva, everyone loves Tanutuva, and Mongolia. People forget they were communist for a while. Then we have the. Why are you a different color? What is happening?
It's
No,
it's
not
probably fun.
no, not you. The communist Chinese
Yeah,
are a different color. Are they? They're not a faction though.
they're their own, aren't they?
Um. Oh, oh, they are their own faction. They're the Mutual Assistance Bloc. Interesting. I didn't get a notice about that. Does that just start with them? Anyway, I'll have to come back to that in a moment. So you get the Comintern with those guys. You get Axis, which is literally just Germany right now, and it might remain just Germany because the Italians look to be going their own way. But then we have the Allies, which is Great Britain and all of Great Britain's colonies, which is Canada. You have your English, British Guiana down there. All of the various English colonies in Africa. Look, kids, colonialism. You can see it right here.
And don't
And
forget independent Newfoundland.
independent Newfoundland is considered to be controlled by the UK directly right here.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
funny.
if you go over it, it's a different color from Canada. But then we
Oh,
also
good. But I think it's funny that I have every other state recognized, but they just slap all of Newfoundland into the UK. Like you can play as British Singapore, can't you?
no. Oh, the anarchists have rebelled against the Spanish. We'll go look at that in a moment. British Raj is its own thing, along with these other colonies, Australia, New Zealand. It's great. We'll look at the Communist Chinese faction here in a moment. Just want to show Spain for a second. So you have the anarchists in the northeast, who are a non-aligned faction, but they are anarchists definitely. It is the Regional Defense Council of Aragon. If you're familiar with revolutionary history at all, starting in the late 1700s after the American Revolution with the French Revolution, this is very in that mold of what they're trying to do, except more explicitly anarchist because they are the People's Defense Council. It's very interesting stuff. So, at the end of the day, what you have to know is there are now three factions fighting each other over here. It is a Republican democratic slash kind of communist government. There's a lot of communists in the government fighting fascist Spain, and then there's these anarchists in the northeast of Spain, who I have not seen win independently, but they have a very interesting thing going on where they can, if they win, quote unquote, export the revolution, where they can't side with anyone, but they have to go fight everyone. It's very interesting. Probably won't happen, but if it does, that will leave Europe looking kind of strange. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a second because there's a lot of things that just came up all at once. Looks like, yep, I want help with construction, please. I did unlock a new tech tree, so I'm able to research things a little bit faster now, which is nice because I think it is fair to say that I am very behind on tech, and I think you are as well.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, new guns. New guns. Now I am making the Liao Type 13, which comes with a grenade. I think this is also a bolt-action rifle, but, you know.
Free grenade.
Oh, yeah, free grenade. Yeah. So to look at what it says here, it is an upgrade from the old Type 38, which is just a gun and a bayonet, but now it looks like it's a carbine and a grenade. That's fun. Stats go up a little bit in terms of just general fightiness, it looks like, which is good. Because I'm going to need all the help I can get fighting the Japanese, although they are going to be outmatching me technologically in manpower and in equipment. So we'll see what happens. I'm kind of envious of your position, because as long as you keep ties with the Chinese and the communist Chinese, you're not going to be, excuse me, you're not going to be right in the firing line here. Yeah, this is what I get for going to bed after like 2 last night. Okay.
Well, I mean, you can't discount the strength of Mengukuo, right? Right there next to you.
Yeah, let's take a look at these guys.
I mean, they'll be joining with the Japanese, unless they also go independent.
Prince, I don't want to attempt that name. Spirit of Genghis. Hello? They have a cavalry attack thing. Is this a Mongol?
Yeah, this is a Japanese-occupied Inner Mongolian state. Like, it's a same thing what happened with Manchuria, but it was parts of Mongolia. And, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, that's basically it.
Interesting. They're also an imperial protectorate, and I didn't realize that, which is why I put all my troops on the border with them, but they're not going to do anything to me. They're an imperial protectorate. We're all in the same boat here, all one team. The Japanese team.
So they're really interesting because I don't remember them coming up too often when I'm reading about Manchukuo and the Japanese incursion into mainland China. Like I know they're there and they're mentioned.
Oh boy.
But, rest in peace, Hindenburg.
The humanity. A lot of things are happening all at once. It's because the national focuses basically all kick off at the same time, because it's all like 70 days. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's 35. I can't see anything here that's 35, but yeah. I'm sorry. You were saying about the Mongols?
Yeah, the Mongol successor, or the Mongol colonial state here that they set up, and it's not something I know a lot about because it doesn't come up a lot in, the text I was reading for my comprehensives and all this other stuff. But I think it's really fascinating that they actually had I suppose they created an extra little state here for the, legitimate, under their control, Mongol successor. So I'd like to learn more about that because I don't know much about it other than it was there.
Interesting. So I'm looking at my my focus tree here, and I'm going to keep a pause here for a second as I talk about this because there's a few options. So after I continue down this route of eventually getting rid of the Japanese, they don't know it yet, I think. I can either choose to staff my court with the Manchus or have 5 equal peoples in terms of equality in...
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And it's interesting because if I go down the Manchu route, I'll get some pretty strong infantry units that will have... It'll be 4 divisions with several infantry battalions and a few artillery battalions. I don't have any guns right now. I don't have any artillery, so that's pretty interesting. And it'll also
Hmm.
give me some military factories. Whereas if I go down this other route, I'll get White Russian advisors, which is pretty wild. And then I get more units and more recruitable population, but it's smaller divisions. It's only 3 infantry battalions per division, which is you'd basically be raising regiments, as what those are. Pretty small. I think I'm
So
going to go down
the
this route though.
hmm?
I'm going to go down this route because it unlocks an ability called Raise the Banners, which I want to see what that does.
The banner, the Manchu banners, right?
Yeah.
Military.
Well, yeah, the Manchu banners. Yeah, it just says raise. It just says unlocks raise the banners, and I don't know what that does, and I want to see what that does in game. So I'm
That'd
gonna
be
go down
interesting.
that route.
It's interesting that they included the five peoples thing. That's something from the Xinhua Revolution and Sun Yat Sen. You know, this the father of Japanese. Or sorry, wow, father of Chinese republicanism. Right? He was supposed to. He was one of the main leading intellectual figures in the teens and 20s until he died, who wanted to create a new modern China. And the five peoples thing was a way of distancing from this either Qing, Manchu centric government,
I'm
and also
unpausing, by the
distancing
way.
from that's fine from a Han centric idea, right? Because they have the five equal peoples and they have the different colors. So you see, like the revolutionary banners have the five stripes of the different peoples in China. So it's
Hmm.
neat that they're going down that route and that they would stick that into the Manchukuo, the Manchurian independence route.
I'm going to be kowtowing to the unions. I keep saying kowtow. This is not intentional, I swear. I am going to be working on improving worker conditions here, which is going to be making my factories worse, but it's going to be increasing my stability, which means that when the Japanese declare war on me, I won't surrender as quickly, which is important. So remember, kids, if you want to win a war, unionize, I guess. It's the moral of this story, I suppose.
Strength in numbers.
Sure, we'll go with that. So,
Yeah,
go ahead, sorry.
I'm just interested that I was looking at my focus tree here, and I have a choice between rid out corruption or embrace the opium trade. So I went rid out corruption because that's what we did in Shanxi. He was actually pretty anti-opium trade and anti, this degradation of the people, and tried to root it out. So that's I'm gonna play historic that way.
Well, that sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm. Actually
Uh,
helps me get rid of corruption in my government, which is a negative to stability and political power.
that's good.
So that's handy.
Here's something that's very strange with my divisions. I don't know if you've taken a look at yours, but mine are. So I have one that is a three. Oh.